Hello and welcome to NFL Experts.
Okay, this is a different episode. We're doing audio because instead of just looking at us, we'll give you something else to look at. And Sam left the show, so he won't be in it anymore. In case you don't know who Sam was, he's the one who did the NFL update. Okay, Louie, continue.
Okay, so we are going to be doing a new segment today called Fantasy Focus. We're going to give our top 5 best players for each position. Number 1 for quarterbacks, I have from the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers. Nothing said about him. He's just hands down the best quarterback in the league. Number 2, I have from the New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees. With the re-signing of Marcus Colston, he should be the same as he's always been. Number 3, Tom Brady. He's always been a dynamic quarterback, but he's always had a couple guys in front of him. Number 4, I have Eli Manning from the New York Giants. From his playoff push last year, I see him to continue. Number 5, I have Cam Newton from the Carolina Panthers. He had an amazing rookie year setting records, so I think fantasy-wise he's going to be great. So, Dave, why don't you give us your quarterback?
Well, I agree with the top 3 with Rodgers, Brees, and Brady. But number 4, I have Matt Stafford. He's got Megatron for another 7 years, signed $113 million. And he's always got that target, and if a defense shuts him down, which is hard to do, he'll have Burleson or Titus Young. And I agree with number 5. Okay, now you can running backs.
Okay, running backs. I have from the Philadelphia Eagles, LeSean McCoy. He has the ability to be a great receiver as well in this league, but he led the league in touchdowns last year with 17, and led with rushing yards, so he's pretty much a first-round pick. If you can get him first overall, I'd take him. Number 2, I have from the Jacksonville Jaguars, Maurice Jones-Drew. Has always put up consistent points in fantasy every year. Number 3, I have Arian Foster from the Texans. Was off to a slow start last year from his injuries, but he came back and was elite. Number 4, I have from the Baltimore Ravens, Ray Rice. He led that offense in the Ravens, so he's going to get most of the yards on that offense, so he's a great first-round pick. And number 5, I have from the Chicago Bears, Matt Forte. But the downside to him is the Bears just signed Michael Bush, so that's going to take away some of the carries from Forte.
All right, now for mine. Mine are a little different. Number 1, I have Arian Foster from the Houston Texans. As Louie said, he got off to a rough start with his hamstring injury, but he should be 100% next year. And number 2, I have Ray Rice from the Baltimore Ravens. He had a huge breakout season, and I think he'll do even better next year. Number 3, LeSean McCoy from the Philadelphia Eagles. As Louie said, he's a great running back. He led the league in touchdowns, in yards. Oh, yeah. Did he lead the league in touchdowns?
Touchdowns, yeah, overall he had 17, which led all players.
Okay, and I know he did lead in yards. And for number 4, I have Maurice Jones-Drew from the Jacksonville Jaguars. He gets a little bit more attempts because that team doesn't really have much stars. So he really helps out, and he'll get more yards with that advantage. And number 5, Matt Forte. He's a great like receiving running back. He gets a lot of reception and a lot of rushing yards. He might be holding out though, and they did just sign Michael Bush, so that could affect him. But I still think he's in the top 5 running backs.
Yeah, MJD hasn't had anyone there since Fred Taylor of the Jaguars. Just a fun fact there. So
Receivers?
For receivers, I have number 1 from the Detroit Lions, Megatron. Had a huge season last year, and with his contract extension to 8 years, and with a solid young quarterback like Matt Stafford, he's only going to get better as he goes on, even though I don't know how much better he can get from last year. Number 2, I have Andre Johnson from the Houston Texans. His injuries limited what he could do last year, but he should be healthy this year, and when he gets going, he can be one of the best receivers in the league. Number 3, I have from the Arizona Cardinals, Larry Fitzgerald. He hasn't had a good quarterback for a while, so but since Kurt Warner, but he still puts up elite receiver points. So number 4, I have from the New York Giants, Victor Cruz. Victor Cruz did amazing last year with Eli Manning as his quarterback, and with Hakeem Nicks on the other side, he should only do good, better than he did last year. Number 5, I have from the Cincinnati Bengals, A.J. Green. With a young quarterback like Andy Dalton, I think, and I had him last year, he's not a risk-taking anymore. He proved last year that he can play in this league, and he's a great fantasy player.
All right, okay, before we get to mine, I know that you did pick A.J. Green last year and you took the risk with him. Would you be really willing to take the risk with Justin Blackmon this year?
I'd like to see where he goes first, but I wouldn't pick probably the highest I would pick him in, even if he's on a good team, would be probably in the late second, early third. So, but yeah, I would take a chance on him, but no other receivers in the draft. So I'll give you receivers.
Okay, all right. Now for mine, I agree with 1, 2, and 3 with Calvin, Andre, and Larry Fitzgerald. But number 4, I have Wes Welker. He's got Tom Brady as his quarterback, which is great. And they lost. They did get Lloyd, but they lost Deion Branch and Ocho Cinco. Ocho Cinco is really not that much of a loss, but Branch is. So he was one of Brady's favorite targets. And Victor Cruz, number 5. As Louie said, he had a great season last year, very explosive, and I think he'll do even better this year. Okay, for tight ends.
For tight ends, number 1, I have from the San Diego Chargers, Antonio Gates. With him pretty much the only weapon in San Diego anymore for Phillip Rivers, he's going to get most of the receptions there. Number 2, I have Jimmy Graham from the New Orleans Saints, who had a breakout year last year. And with Drew Brees coming back, I think he's going to be just as elite as he was last year. Number 3, I have from the New England Patriots, Rob Gronkowski. Gronk's had an injury last year that limited him in the Super Bowl, but I think he should be healthy for next year. He's just got to limit the dancing in the clubs. Number 4, I have from the 49ers, Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis did not get Peyton Manning, but he did get Alex Smith back. So, but with all the receiver signings that the 49ers have done, I put him below the other 3. Number 5, I have Aaron Hernandez from the New England Patriots, a very underrated tight end, mainly because he's overshadowed by Robert Gronkowski, but he gets the job done. He's quiet, and he's a great tight end if you have great players on any other position.
All right, I seem like I say this a lot, but I agree with 1, 2, and 3 with Antonio Gates, Jimmy Graham, and Rob Gronkowski. But number 4, I have Jermichael Finley from the Green Bay Packers. He's got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and he is one of Rodgers' main target. So that really helped you in fantasy. And number 5, Vernon Davis. Alex Smith was re-signed, and he is a great target. Probably he was Smith's favorite last year. I don't know how it'll be with Moss and Manningham there, though.
I have a question for you. If this is about the tight ends in the Patriots situation, would there ever be a time in the draft where you consider Aaron Hernandez over Robert Gronkowski?
Well, if Gronk is hurt right now, then... Like, if he's still hurt, then yeah, I'd go with Hernandez. I like Hernandez a lot. But Gronk, he's probably a little better, and he's more favored. He's got more targets than Hernandez does.
Good point. All right, defense. Number 1, I have from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 1, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the outcome of that wild card game would have been a little different if Ryan Clark was there. I think he would have made that tackle on Demaryius Thomas. But they've always been a solid team. They have good veterans there at the linebacker position and Troy Polamalu in the backfield. Number 2, I have the Baltimore Ravens with Haloti Ngata on the front line and Terrell Suggs on the outside, and then you have Ray Lewis in the middle still, who even though he's getting old, he still plays at an elite level, and you still have Ed Reed in the backfield, who's doing the same as Ray Lewis. Number 3, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Kind of an underrated defense with Aldon Smith on the end and Carlos Rogers and Dante Whitner, who are I like them in the secondary. They really carried that team to the playoffs, even though Alex Smith did have the game-winning touchdown against the Saints. Number 4, I have the Denver Broncos, another underrated defense with Von Miller and Ellis Dumerville on the sides. They carried Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow did not carry them. Number 5, I have the Philadelphia Eagles with the signing of the middle linebacker from the Houston Texans, DeMeco Ryans. I think they're going to be just as good. So, Dave?
All right, number 1, I have the 49ers defense. They basically led the team to the NFC Championship game last year, and they got Carlos Rogers back, and they didn't really lose anyone. Same with the Steelers. They didn't lose anybody key, and as Louie said, they've always been a great defense, even though they are getting old. Number 3, I have the Packers. Wait, never mind, I take that back. I have the Ravens with T. Sizzle and Ray Lewis and Ed Reed still back there. They're just a dynamic defense, which really leads that team, except for Ray Rice. Number 4, I have the Packers, who have Clay Matthews and Charles Woodson leading the way, which is great. And I think I had them last year in fantasy. They were great for me. I actually had them in the Steelers, but They were really good, and I'd get them again. And number 5, I have the Broncos with Von Miller and Ellis Dumervil. That's just a really good defense, and I'd definitely pick them in the draft.
I believe too. I like the Packers, but the only thing is, since the Bills have signed Nick Barnett, they have not had a solid guy in the middle. But I do agree with Dave that they are an elite defense. Number for kickers now. We're just gonna skim through this. We don't really have a lot of detail on kickers.
Yeah.
So number 1, I have Saban Janikowski from Oakland. He has a ginormous leg, and he'd be a great late pick for a kicker. Number 2, I have Matt Prater, who won a ton of games for the Broncos last year. Number 3, I have Lawrence Tynes from the Giants, an underrated kicker, 2 game-winning kicks in the NFC Championship to bring the Giants to 2 Super Bowl victories. And number 4, I have Steven Gostkowski of the Patriots. Don't have a lot of background information on him, but I know he's a solid kicker. And number 5, I have the veteran David Akers from the 49ers, having a career year last year.
All right, now for my top 5. Number 1, Janikowski. 2, Matt Prater of the Broncos. 3, Nate Kading of the Chargers. He did a little bit worse than he did 2 years ago, but I think he's really good still. 4, Steven Gostkowski from the Patriots. He gets a lot of extra points. And 5, Neil Rackers from the Texans. I had him last year. He was great.
Okay, so that's going to do it. Make sure to follow us at DB Sports Talk and at Crest Sports on Twitter.
And for more NFL stuff, go to our blog on blogger.com/NFL experts. See you next time.